Hello. Hey, it's the Genesee County Compassion Club show, and I'm coming to you live from Flint Talk. How's it going? Woo! Man, it's good to be back in the studio because it is cold out here.
See, this represents Jeremy's so busy he could barely be here. No,
I can only be here in face. But no, hey, it's good to be back. We're having some fun in the studios here at Flint Talk, and you know it's just an awesome thing. If you want to check us out, go to allpointstv.com and you can get all the latest podcasts. But this right here, this is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. We're going to be talking about medical marijuana. Going to be letting you know what's happening down at the Genesee County Compassion Club and letting you know what's happening with medical marijuana and marijuana in general here in Michigan and across the state. So let's get this thing started. Man, it's so cold. Everybody warming up, man. I mean, it's been sub-zero. Obviously, with the theme we got going on here today, feeling the cold. But man, I guess a lot of us indoor growers, we love the colder temps because, it's that much less we have to cool. But at any rate, this kind of cold, maybe not so much, right? All right, hey, we got some good stuff going on down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. I want to share with you guys today, let you know what's been happening. And also keep you up to date with what's going on. All right, so we had a wonderful time over the holidays. I hope you guys did too. I know we had our club Christmas party. We just had the staff party here this last week, and it was a good time had by all. Thank you, everybody. Just the holiday season is a wonderful time. So I hope you had time to spend with your family and friends and, do the important stuff. All right. But unfortunately, the holidays are over. I gotta make sure I'm zipped up here because it's cold. And we're moving on. So upcoming events, this is what we've got. We've got the Soup Kitchen happening on the 26th of this month, January. It is a Friday. It's always the last Friday of the month. It makes it easy to remember. And definitely want to say thank you for everybody that pitched in and helped out at the last Soup Kitchen here just around Christmas time. Definitely really appreciate that. Also, we just were able to complete an event. We had, in the summertime, we had our wonderful charity golf outing. And we were able to just get that completed. What we do is a charity event for golf. It's for the Hurley Roar Foundation. This is to help kids get reading access. It provides books to them and mentorship while they're at the hospital or while they're, they might be there personally. They might be there for a loved one, but they're getting some attention and getting some care, and that's what these kids need. And this program helps them do that. And we were able to present our check that you guys helped us create for $4,000 to the Roar Foundation. So if you go to our Facebook page at Genesee County Compassion Club, you can check out the photos there of our members. And definitely want to say thank you to George and Charlie for really making that happen and putting that event together and presenting the check. You guys, we really appreciate it, and you make the club look great. Thank you very much. And most importantly, we're helping out those kids. And those kids are in the worst of times. So there's nothing better that we could do is help them out. And it's all done discreetly. It's not like they know where it's all coming from. But the important thing is that it's getting in their hands. And I know the members up at Hurley who run this program greatly appreciate our efforts to keep this going. So, but thank you again. Thank you to all you members. Thank you to everybody who helped participate. All of our sponsors at the golf event that we had this past summer. I know we had quite a few. Materan Gardens, Fenton Hydro, and Herbs from the Burbs, and I know there's a few others as well, but thank you very much for everybody who chipped in and helped that out. $4,000 is nothing to scoff at, and it goes a long ways in this program. It's not like it has a lot of administrative cost associated with it, so it's really a meat and bones type of thing, and this really does make an impact. So we're very thankful to be a part of it, and thanks again. All right, next thing we got coming up here this past week, John, if you could pull up the flyer that we have there for Frank Doyle Butler. Frank is a near and dear friend to all of us, and he was integral in the club. Frank did maintenance for us for years, and he did a hell of a lot more as well for the club. A lot of the things that we have at the club wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this man. But God bless his soul, he passed away after a long battle with cancer. And we're trying to do a fundraiser to help out his family with the cost. Obviously, a funeral cost and so on, and they need help. So we're doing a breakfast buffet for Frank on Saturday at 10 a.m. with all of his favorite items for you guys to eat. So we got the buffet going on that starts at 10 a.m. We're doing a 50-50 raffle at noon. And then we're having a silent auction that will be going on all day long. Actually, well, not all day. It's going to be going on from noon till 4:20 is when we'll wrap up the auction and call the items. But all the funds raised are going to go directly to Frank's family to help, again, with his funeral costs and so on. And, I mean, it's the least that we could do. Frank bent over backwards for us every opportunity that he had. And we're going to miss him greatly. So, another great member gone. We've lost quite a few. But, you know, that it's a stark reminder that we are in this for medical reasons. And, I mean, not that, you know, it makes you feel good, but at least it gives you a firm foundation that what you guys are doing, you caregivers out there that do this, it's real. It's real. And you can't forget that. I know that part of our job, I think, as caregivers is not just to provide relief and benefits and healing, but it's also to provide that mental relief away from the stress and the rigmarole that goes with being sick. And so sometimes we forget about that. We can kind of push those things aside strongly enough with our medication to sort of forget about those trials, but they still exist. And this is definitely a reminder that what you guys do really does impact people's lives and makes it better for them. So give yourself a pat on the back for that, okay? All right, that's it for events. That's some good stuff going down at the G3C. It's exciting times. Our menu's kicking it. If you haven't been into the club lately, you need to get in there and get yourself some food because it's absolutely delicious. If you're out of bath bombs, stop next door. You can get some bath bombs. If you want to hear my ringtone, you can listen to the playback again of the podcast. Okay. All right. I want to talk about some news items, let you know what's been going on with marijuana here in Michigan and around the country. Haven't been in the studio for a little bit, so I got some catching up to do. First thing I want to make mention of is California. I talked about it a little bit last time I was on the show here. The fact that California's recreational marijuana legal sales began first of the year. So they are off and running, and that's news in itself. The second thing about that is, you know, I thought it was interesting that this whole thing with our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who supposedly made, you know, an adjustment, if you will, to marijuana policy, that was done at the same time that California is rolling open the door to legal adult marijuana sales. So just keep that in mind, and everything you hear in the news, you got to take with a grain of salt. But at any rate, let's talk about that. California, it is now legal beagle for everyone. It's not just medical anymore. They had medical there. It was existed since 1996. So you're talking, you know, 21 years later, the state finally got their adult ticket and opened it up for everybody. So I think that's kind of almost sort of ironic, isn't it? That when the medical marijuana program was 21 years old in the state, now they open it up for everybody. I don't know if this stuff's all planned out, folks, but it doesn't lend itself to not being a conspiracy. Anyways, let's talk about what happened. So California rolls this out, and of course, like every other place in the United States that's dealing with marijuana as a business, running into the same stupid wall of not being able to do banking. Banks, you know, we've talked about this again and again on the show. California is no different. So what they're proposing in California, and it hasn't happened yet, but what has been proposed is that California itself would create its own state-owned bank specifically for cannabis transactions. So that's an interesting new idea, if you will. Colorado has been struggling with this problem. Washington, Oregon, Alaska, I mean, all these states that now have legalized sales on top of medical sales. We're talking about literally millions of dollars running around, and you know, if it's not in a bank, it's probably in cash, and we know what that presents itself to. So California says, hey, we've got an idea. If the federal government won't let us license our financial institutions, then we'll license our own. Pretty bold statement. We'll see if they follow through on this. One of the things that is a benefactor of what our Attorney General did, Jeff Sessions, in rolling back his little memo, one of the things that has caused the opposite effect is that Senator Gardner's bill, which was introduced back in May of 2017, is gaining more traction. That particular bill is the Marijuana Business Access to Banking Act. So now realize this act has been introduced 3 times. It was introduced in 2013, 2015, and again in May of 2017, this time by Senator Gardner from Colorado. So more people are now paying attention and sponsoring this bill in light of what Jeff Sessions has done, according to the federal memo that everyone is now aware of. And of course, I'm referring to the change that they made there in the memo. Previous memo said that federal government would not allocate funds to go after marijuana businesses in states that were functioning according to state law. In other words, compliant marijuana businesses in state licensed states, right? They said we won't spend money at going after that. They removed that section from the entire memo. That's what Sessions did. That's what's got everybody all upset and up in arms, is that little memo is now gone. And that's the problem with memos, is they aren't worth the paper that they're written on. We need to have real policy, which is done by making laws. That's how we do things in this country. So we don't need any more memos. What we need is a law, and Senator Gardner's proposed bill is the law that we need to have happen. So hopefully the blowback from what Sessions has done will help this gain traction, get more sponsorship, and maybe actually get to have a vote. We're talking about 26, 27 states now that have marijuana businesses legally happening. We're talking about 7 different states that have legal recreational marijuana for adult use on top of that. So this is a glaring issue right now. It's no longer a back burner thing, and it is mainstream. So hopefully this will gain traction because of what Sessions has done. And again, California adding on to that now. And another state actually just today announced, Vermont, their Senate today just approved a recreational marijuana bill. So they do expect, from what news reports say, they do expect the Vermont governor to sign this bill, which would make Vermont the next state to offer recreational marijuana to adults for recreational purposes. So another state, if you will. So it's just gaining traction. Obviously, Michigan might be a state here in the near future. We might be voting on it this year in November, whether or not to legalize marijuana for adult use here in Michigan in November. That might happen. It's going to be on the ticket. You're going to be voting for it. So we might be next. All right. In the meantime, what's going on in Michigan? What's going on is medical marijuana. That's all we have right now. That's what's going to be. And in Detroit, it's a mess. Okay? Detroit had an ordinance for the old places. Then they wanted to pass an ordinance for the new places. Then they didn't want to pass it. Then they forced them to pass it. And now they're getting sued for passing it. So, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not even going to try to get into this. But all I can tell you is that Detroit's a mess, okay, when it comes to medical marijuana. So let me pull this up for you here. And then I thought it was kind of interesting. Let's see if I can find the article now. Bear with me. Here we go. All right, so Detroit's, obviously this is all based around zoning is what the big issue is. And, whether or not they should be zoned, how they should be zoned, so on and so forth. Here's the story from LinkedIn. I'm trying to find the exact source here. I apologize. Anyways, I got this on my email. I'll share it with you anyways. It says, Detroit's medical marijuana ordinance went into effect last week, but legal proceedings between business owners and the city have brought the industry to a halt. The suit by a business group which claims they were denied a permit because it violated the city's old ordinance has caused the city to put everything on hold until the legal matter is resolved. Here's quotes. It would be improper, administratively wasteful, and confusing to the public to implement the initiatives or take any action pertaining to permitting or licensing marijuana facilities while the litigation is pending in circuit court, said Deputy City Corporation Counsel Charles Ramey in a memo to the city. So that's basically where the city is standing on right now. They have litigation going on all around their current medical marijuana ordinances, and they're saying, look, we don't want to do anything further until that court case is settled. And realize this is about the 4th or 5th time now that the Detroit City Council has, changed their mind. They've gone from licensing to not licensing, to do it this way, to do it a different way, to not do it, back to do it. So business owners in Detroit are struggling trying to make ends meet, trying to figure out which side is up, which side's down, while the city continues to confuse them further. So it says right here, in Detroit, about 60 dispensaries are operating with some sort of approval from the city under the old ordinance, but none have got permission from the city under the new ordinance, which was passed by voters in November. These dispensaries are in jeopardy of closing after a state-imposed February 15th deadline to submit applications. It says here, all the dispensaries operating in the city are going to have to shut down. An attorney who represented one of the dispensaries in Detroit. Everybody who is a cardholder in Detroit is going to be impacted. Without approval from the city, medical marijuana business owners can't get a complete application to get a license to operate from the state. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of that story. It's a mess. So I don't have a lot of light at the end of the tunnel for you on this story, other than we're going to have to keep watching and seeing what's going to happen. I can tell you in the meantime, a lot of these entrepreneurs, prospective business owners, and so on are doing what any rational person would do, and they're getting the hell out of Detroit. They're going to somewhere else. They're going to someplace that has, an amicable city council. They're going to someplace that has a little bit of common sense in how they do things. And so Detroit is ending up losing out on these prospective businesses. Not a good thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about the applications. What's going on? Lara has, let's see if I can get this. Okay, here we go. If I can find the doggone article. There's a couple different things about Lara that I wanted to talk to you about today and let you know. But this one I thought was interesting, is that the applications for the new facilities, there's a lot of, obviously we've been talking about that a lot on the show here. There have been, to date, no specific applications sent into the state for testing facilities or for transport companies. So out of the 5 businesses that the state has now created, 2 of them nobody's even asked to get a license for. And it is my understanding that no product will be able to be available to a patient unless it has gone through these 2 businesses as well, i.e. marijuana has to be tested and it can't be moved around without a licensed transport. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm sure there will be licensed testing facilities, but as of so far, no one's applied for one yet. Lara has stated that they have well over 400 applications pending online that they haven't gone through yet. Could be buried in there. There are also a number of applications that have been submitted that didn't yet specify what type of business it was that they were applying for. So those could be a potential testing facility or transport company, either way. But I thought it was interesting that no one had it yet, and I don't know. I mean, maybe they're waiting for something. I don't know. Like Maddie Moran to come take over the whole thing. I don't know. All right. Next thing is here. Oh, yes. Lara fees. Let's talk about that. Lara just recently put out a report that the fees collected from the medical marijuana program, and again, these are fees that have already been collected. They have nothing to do with the new program that is going into effect. So these are fees from patients and caregivers. They were collected and they've been redistributed according to the law. Basically, doggone it. Freaking article. They're given out to law enforcement, more than 50 counties, and a total of $1.8 million. That's a lot of fees. So yeah, Lara collected these fees from patients and caregivers, total of $1.8 million that they had in excess. They took that excess, gave it out to over 50 different counties. The money was used specifically for police, for them to use for overtime, for raids, more vehicles, more equipment, and tactical gear. So that's what your fees are going towards. There you have it. I don't know how I feel about that, so I'm not going to say anything. All right. You can imagine what they're going to do. I mean, I guess the new program has a better allocation of how fees are going to work versus the old program. The old program, they just dump it in the general fund and do whatever they want with it. So maybe that is an improvement there. But at any rate, that's a lot of extra money that the state shouldn't have to collect, if it's my opinion. All right. That's pretty much it for the local places. And here's the thing. Around the state, you've got places popping up. There's an article right here I'm looking at for Torch Lake, Township, which is way up in the UP. You've got little townships and cities across the state still trying to figure out how they're going to license these new facilities, if they're going to license these facilities, and how it's all going to go down, if it is going to go down at all. The latest I've heard in local area here in Genesee County is our township to the north of us, Mount Morris Township. It looks like they are looking to pass an ordinance. I know they have a couple different prospective large businesses that are looking to move into the area, as was reported into the paper. Whether or not these will become a reality is yet to remain to be seen. Also, there's quite a few different businesses that already existed prior to the new law in Mount Morris Township. It'll be interesting to see how the township handles those, as well as they're dealing with these new prospective businesses also. So if you're in the Mount Morris Township area, you need to be aware of what's going on, and you want to be involved if you can be. Same thing goes for other areas in Genesee County, like Thetford Township is another one. Those guys up there, if you're in the Montrose area, I'm not exactly sure what the name of that township is up there, but Montrose, another key area where they're really having a battle at the city council level, and the only way to change that is to give input. Okay. Other areas have yet to open up, like Fenton, Grand Blanc, Flushing, Davison, Goodrich, various areas around Swartz Creek, and so on. A lot of these areas have not done anything yet, and if they are, they're keeping it on the down low. But if you live in those areas, you want to call up your local township, call up your city council, find out when the next town board meeting is, look at their past meeting minutes, look at their future upcoming meeting agendas, find out what's going on, because you're probably better educated as to what marijuana needs are for patients and caregivers than your township officials, and they're making decisions that are going to affect you. So I'd encourage you to get involved. All right. All right. So that's about it for that news there. I don't think I have a lot else with you guys here. The state's moving along. You definitely want to keep in tune. It's the beginning of the year, so a lot of folks have got different things on the plate other than marijuana, of course, as far as legislatively speaking. But it's certainly a hot button item. And again, we're going to be voting on this here in November. So you want to be talking to your friends. You want to be getting educated about what this is going to be looking like, if you're going to support it or not, and then what you can do to support it if you feel that you should. Right? All right. Let me read one more article to you. This is from Leafly.com. I thought it was kind of interesting. It's saying 7 cannabis strains that changed the game. I mean, I could tell you what those were. Blueberry. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's interesting seeing all the new strains that are coming out. And then, of course, you have like the old classics, like what we're talking about, like Panama Red or Acapulco Gold. I think those are some of the most famous strains just because of the notoriety. Of course, here in Michigan, you've got certain strains like Pinconning Paralyzer that are pretty well known. Because of the local, flavor and so on. But, I mean...
Kind of a cheesy flavor? Or?
There is. There's a strain called Cheese.
Yeah, but Pinconning was years ago. It used to be known for cheese, production.
Oh, does the Pinconning Paralyzer have a cheesy flavor?
Yeah, cheesy flavor, yeah.
I don't think it does.
Of course, I don't know if you want to call weed cheesy anyway.
Well, there is a weed strain. There's a strain called Cheese.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there is. And there's a blue cheese, and there's Quirkle cheese. There's a lot of different crosses.
That might be an interesting side for some other future show about maybe a list of just get a list put up there.
Well, that's strains. The thing is like the list. We could just go like a library and go with the Dewey Decimal System. Which strains you want to talk about today? There's a lot of strains out there, and there's you got the new trend-setting strains like Skittles and Sherbert and stuff like this, and you've got the old classics like I was mentioning before. You've got the standbys like OG and Trainwreck and some of these other ones. But I think when we get into call it the future, when we become more educated about cannabis as a whole, as a society, I think we're going to be looking a lot more at what terpenes are in these strains versus what goofy name some grower came up with. And no offense to the names, it definitely gives it something to go by. And it makes it fun. Gives us something to remember by. If we're all out there talking, I really like this limonene, that's probably not going to be as exciting as somebody saying, I really like this lemon haze. But at any rate, I think that as we become more educated as consumers, that is what we're going to be seeking out is terpenes in combinations with cannabinoids. Medically, you're going to want certain types of cannabinoids. You're going to find that they work for you or don't work for you. And then on top of that, now you're going to add on what type of flavor and so on. So kind of like when you go to Starbucks, you know, and you're like, okay, I want the mocha or whatever, you know, you get something that's nice and light, not too much caffeine. Or you got the other guy on the end of the spectrum who wants a double espresso, you know, with a shot of coffee grounds or whatever. But, you know, that's kind of how that goes. So, all right, that's it. Guys, thanks for being with me this week. I definitely appreciate it. We had fun with the podcast this week. I feel like I'm floating on land of ice. For those of you that do enjoy winter sports, get out there and have some fun. I know I love winter. It's just such a great time. Think about the fact that there's no bugs, okay? If you're one of those people that doesn't like the cold, just think about the fact that you don't have any bugs right now. Okay, maybe that'll cheer you up. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for being with me this week. Please help out if you can at the Soup Kitchen. Definitely like to see you down there at the club on Saturday with the memorial and the auction and the breakfast. It's going to be a good time down there. We'll have remembering our friend Frank. Again, you know, with the passing of our loved ones and our close members here, it's a good reminder that of what's really important. So hug and kiss and love the ones around you. And join me again here on the podcast next time on the Genesee County Compassion Club show at allpointstv.com. Thank you. Have a good week.